A recent poll showed that Americans now value money more than patriotism, religion, community, or children. A shocking trend that's been materializing since at least the late 1990s. As American trust in institutions has declined, some people seem to be turning to money as an anchor in the storm, a certain source of value in an uncertain world. In fact, 69% of those in Gen Z believe that money can buy happiness. Of course, people of faith know that that isn't true. In fact, an improper relationship with money can deeply handicap a person's attempt to live a deep and meaningful life. The scriptures are clear on this. There are roughly 2,350 verses in the Bible concerning money, many of them cautionary. 1 Timothy 6:10 famously warns that the love of money is the root of all kinds of evil. And in Matthew 6:24, Jesus is clear. No one can serve two masters. Either you will hate one and love the other, or you will be devoted to one and despise the other. But you cannot serve both God and money. Yet we also know that money is not all bad. Abraham was blessed with wealth to build a nation, as was David. Proverbs 10:4 encourages hard work by saying, lazy hands make for poverty, but diligent hands bring wealth. And Proverbs 3:9-10 says, honor the Lord with your wealth, with the best part of everything that you produce. Then he will fill your barns with grain and your vats will overflow with good wine. God sometimes blesses people with money as he does with other tools, but he also calls us to submit that wealth to him and use it for his purposes. So what does that look like? There are 4 ways in which we primarily interact with money. We earn it, spend it, invest it, and give it. And the right thinking around each of those areas can help us to make the money we have as a tool for flourishing and not a place of misplaced identity or failure in our lives. First, we should aim to earn with purpose. When I co-authored my book, Passion and Purpose, one of our core findings was that 2 of the top 3 reasons people choose jobs were intellectual challenge and an opportunity to impact the world. When I started working, though, I had convinced myself that I could do anything for a while to create financial freedom, and I was wrong. I firmly believe that there is no success without significance. We shouldn't wait for significance in our lives, but rather build it into every part of our lives. Part of that is crafting a purposeful career filled with joy and meaning. And while that career needs to pay enough to meet our needs outside of work, once those needs are met and you're able to save a bit for the future, the smartest thing that you can do is to work with purpose. It might be naive to ignore financial necessities entirely when choosing a job. If you need to take a job for money, by all means do. But if you have the financial freedom to do so, opt for a job with great people, with a mission worth achieving, with autonomy and responsibility, and where you can craft meaning into everything that you do. Those things will matter more than the incremental money you've sacrificed, and the chances are that you'll end up better at the career that brings you joy. Colossians 3:23 calls us to work heartily as for the Lord, not men. And if we find ways to integrate faith and missional calling deeply into our work, the process of earning money can bring a deeper sense of purpose as well. Secondly, we should learn to spend wisely. Not all spending is bad, and not every expenditure has to be a necessity. Jesus and his followers went to wedding parties. They sometimes enjoyed nice meals. The heroes of the Bible were sometimes men and women of means, not all of whom lived in poverty, though Jesus called many to do so. But of course, they never made material wealth or grand displays of wealth a focus of their work or lives. In general, I think that we can all agree it's wise to spend less than we make. I think it's also wise to avoid lifestyle creep, allowing our standard of living to rise as our income does, rather than picking a comfortable standard of living and sticking to it even as our means improves. These simple precepts can seem revolutionary in the United States, for example, where nearly half of people carry credit card debt and 25% of people claim to have 0 or negative net worth. But they're important for us to do. Another rule of thumb I like is to prefer to spend money on experiences, not stuff. There is ample research supporting this precept. Material possessions have been associated with decreased well-being when they result in comparison, like trying to buy a nicer watch or car than your neighbor. But experience, things like trips and outings and other activities, are associated with increased well-being. particularly those experiences that open us up to new things and are shared with others. Rather than purchasing a pricey watch, do a trip with a significant other or your family that can expose you to new things while allowing you to serve others. In this, Christians can learn to practice what author Arthur Brooks has called abundance without attachment, living well in relationship with others without prioritizing or becoming attached to the material things that can tempt us. Third, we should learn to invest for impact. Previously at Faith Driven Investor, I've given a talk articulating my belief that all investing is impact investing. Every dollar we put to work has an impact on the world for good or bad, and the only question for us is what impact we choose to have. For a lot of us, we invest more each year than we give or spend, and yet many of us put very little thought into whether those investments honor God and love our neighbors. We are called to invest well and in ways aligned with our values. That's clear in the parable of the talents and in the stories of the rulers of the Old Testament. Other religions agree. The Torah, the Quran, the Hindu scriptures all talk about how we should align our stewardship of wealth with our values. The modern ESG movement arose from a widespread desire to do good with invested capital and not just do well. Billions of people are now aware that their savings can be invested for good, with 86% of millennials interested in impact investing and 72% of members of Gen Z hopeful that investing can improve sustainability. The call for Christians is to consistently innovate on the ways that we do that and think through the ways our investment portfolios can live out the great commandments and the Great Commission, even as we act as responsible fiduciaries. If all our wealth is God's wealth anyway, that includes our investment dollars, and we should spend as much time thinking about the impact that they have as our giving and spending. Fourth and finally, and perhaps most importantly, we should give generously. Whether you have a lot of expendable income or a little, the most fulfilling thing that you can do with your wealth is to give generously and serve others. In 2013, 9 psychologists published a paper with landmark finding. Human beings around the world derive emotional benefits from using their financial resources to help others. Evaluating data from 136 countries, they found that, quote, pro-social spending is associated with greater happiness around the world in rich and poor countries alike. This paper has since been complemented by several others, emphasizing the increased well-being associated with generosity, even apart from its obvious social good. This is, of course, super clear in the Bible. Galatians 6:2 says, "Carry each other's burdens, and in this way you will fulfill the law of Christ." Even as Jesus says in the Gospel of Luke, "Give to everyone who asks of you." And one of the reasons we spend less and invest well is so that we can give more. As many of you, I've been inspired by stories of generosity in the faith-driven movement. Folks like Alan and Catherine Barnhart and Casey and Michelle Crawford. And we as Christians are at our best when we are building on our rich history of trying to solve some of the world's greatest problems. Things like meeting the needs of the poor, reaching the disenfranchised, and serving others. One way to start here is to create a donor advised fund and to begin putting a percentage of your income into it each month and growing that amount as your means grow. Developing consistent habits around giving early can help to keep us consistent through lean times and dedicated to giving as our means expand. The love of money is the root of all kinds of evil, but money stewarded properly can be a tool for flourishing in our lives and in the lives of others. We have an opportunity to earn with purpose, to spend wisely, to invest for impact, and to give generously. And in doing so, we can love God and love others through our financial lives.